Good evening. This is Tuesday, July 23rd. This is Townsend Finance Committee, and I would like to call the meeting to order at 7 o'clock. And as we have a roll call vote, I will state that we have a new member, Carol Hofstas, has joined us in the room, and she's been appointed. And so we do have a new member today, so you'll be hearing a new name during the roll call. Which is probably in the agenda later on also. So with that, and we have remote, I would like a roll call attendance, please.
Geraldine Bazakis.
Andrea
Carol
Wood.
Hofstas.
And Andrea, I heard you. Don Hayes present. With that, we have 4. Sam Grant had sent a message that he was unavailable to make it today, so that would be an excused absence. But we do have a quorum, so we can continue. This meeting is being recorded and can be played live on Channel 9. It will be played back on Channel 9. It is also available on the YouTube. At this point, again, next item for the additions or deletions. I have nothing more to add at this point. Just see if there's nothing I can see. If we do run across something, we may skip it on the agenda. I don't think there's anything that will be skipped. Moving into the work session, I just wanted to indicate I wasn't sure whether the appointments were going to be made. So we had received 2 volunteer forms, and again, Carol Hofstas was appointed, and the other volunteer form was rejected. So we continue with the remainder on the membership. The letters have now been delivered. I know I received my reappointment in the mail. Something on the membership, because I have been reappointed at this point, we have a new member. We need to address our structure, recommending and voting for chair, vice chair, and secretary. I had not considered that. We can run with me continuing with the continuity of government as chair and address it at the next meeting.
You want to, or do you want to address it now? I can address it now.
Okay.
Okay, Don Hayes, chair.
Totally agree. Second that motion.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion to nominate Don Hayes as chair, and we have the second from Carol Hofstas. Any discussion?
No.
Everybody is happy with that. A roll call vote for Chair Don Hayes.
Geraldine Bazakis, yes, for Don.
Carol Hofstas, yes for Dawn. Oh, is Andrea?
Is she
You-
there?
Yep, I'm here. I just got a phone call. That was all because the other bogus message I left was for Kathy Spofford, and she was calling to find out what was up.
Oh,
So I'm sorry.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, the motion on the table is to
really?
renominate me as chair. So we're voting on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're a yes, I'll go yes, so it's unanimous. We have a chair.
Well, none of us could ever cover what you cover and put into the computer. You're stuck there forever.
We'll find. AI is coming along. They will be able to replace me.
Never.
I don't think so.
No.
Okay, and at this point, do we have a nomination for vice chair?
Who's vice chair now?
It had been Mark Hussey,
Mark Hussey.
and, he did not seek to be reappointed. I did have a conversation with him today. He is considering rejoining.
Oh, good.
If, for now, we want to leave that, vacant until we determine what happens with the other members of the committee,
Okay,
we
Okay.
can leave vice chair open.
All right, okay.
And then,
does
Yeah.
does it have to be in a motion?
I suppose that makes sense. Let's do a
Okay.
motion.
All right, I'll
to-
make a motion that we, hold off on vice chair until further information is received.
And I'll second it.
Okay. So we have a motion not to appoint a vice chair in a second at this time, but we will in the future, so, any further discussion or questions? None being heard, a roll call vote to postpone appointing a vice chair.
Carol Mazikas, yes, to postpone.
And Carol Hofstas, yes.
Andrea Wood, yes.
Okay, and Don Hayes, yes. So we have postponed the vice chair. And we have clerk, which had been Andrea.
Well,
And
no, Andrea
I
again.
would like to not do it. Only because I'm years behind on the minutes. And I keep saying when I get my glasses and my eyes fixed. But my eyes are still giving me lots of problems and I can't really do the job, so I shouldn't be appointed to that. Unless you want to do something else about the minutes, and I could take off maybe some of your other duties, Don, but I can't really fill the position.
Okay, understood. Do we have another volunteer that would like to be clerk?
What do you have to do to be clerk?
Just,
It's
you can,
post.
you can actually kind of follow this, you know, the agenda, and then you have to post the meetings.
Then we review the minutes and.
The minutes are the big thing, and the minutes are
And I'm
just,
terrible at minutes.
oh no, ours are quite easy. Because
Are
you
they?
follow his agenda, and then you just put what happened there. It's
Mhm.
just a gist of the meeting. You don't have to
Yeah.
have the
Yeah, but-
exact
No huge
Yeah,
data.
conversations.
We only have the power to recommend. So
Right.
you don't have the same responsibility that you would have on the planning board where you have to have references to taking actual action. We can't, except on the reserve fund, can't do very much at all.
I'm still terrible at minutes, but do you have a sample? Send me.
There, yeah.
Well, let's-
You can look at the town sometime when you come a minute or two early. You can go down to the town clerk's office and ask for her minutes book and look in that. They're all in there with the
So-
agenda.
The other piece, for now, what we could do is, if you would like to say, this meeting, you'll take minutes, we can work together, see how it's put together,
Okay.
and see if it's, so. Go with the one meeting prior,
Okay.
to see if we put it together.
Hey,
So then
Don,
motion, yeah,
sorry to interrupt. I would be glad to work with Carol on how to do minutes. As Andrea had said, they're really pretty simple.
mhm.
And I'd be glad to meet with her offline and just sort of walk her through the process.
Okay. And who is this?
That's for,
Ross.
Ross Perry.
Oh, okay.
Town
Okay.
administrator. I appreciate that, Ron, Russ, I was thinking the same, it's kind of like, just take that few minutes and piece it together, so, I think between the two of us, And again, I think with what we have, if anybody has questions about details, we could always put a link to the YouTube, video that goes along with it to.
Oh, in the minutes?
Yeah, it just as a, so the minutes are just a record of what happened.
Like a motion was made by so-and-so.
But not a transfer.
And the other thing is, when we have a meeting, say with the selectmen, you can go with their minute. You have to have who attended and what time we opened the meeting and stuff and adjourned. But the gist of the business that was done, you can rely on the selectmen meeting. Write that in a minute. That's what you reference. What should be referenced. Lovely trick, that one.
Okay.
A motion again to postpone appointing clerk, but Carol
Volunteers.
volunteered for.
So I'll second it.
Okay. That's the one thing about the planning board, somebody writes the minutes.
Yeah. And, okay, then, a roll call vote for one meeting clerk.
Yes, for Carol.
Carol Hoff says yes.
Andrew Wood, yes.
And Don Hayes, yes, so we have today's meetings covered, and, we'll move to the next one. Thank you. That was, setting the membership and getting our leadership in place, and right now we have the chair and everybody else is postponed. Sorry, I hadn't been sharing this. I've been reading the reading my minutes from on the screen and not sharing it, so we're going to share screen. Sorry, it's kind of like that way people in the room can see where we're going in addition to. So that is the start of where we are. We have the board in place and the members, and next item 2 in the work session is a discussion on the FY25 budget with the town moderator and town administrator, sorry. And Ross has joined us online and had got the files. Ross, I did forward them to Carol because I don't think you knew that she was on the committee yet, so.
Right, and please send me her email address and I'll add her to my distribution list.
Okay, will do.
Well, thank you for letting me meet with you. It's been a scramble to pull this together with the way things have been changing.
Yeah.
I'm going to start with some questions or assumptions, and then we'll go. Then I propose to do a high-level review of the budget, and we can drill down as much as you want, or save the drilling for the following meeting. But the first assumption is that neither the select board, which haven't voted, or the finance committee that hasn't voted, are going to ask for an override. And you can answer, yes, you will, no, you won't, or you're going to think about it. But obviously, the answer will determine what we do with the budget. So are there thoughts at this point on what is recommended regarding an override?
Well, I thought there may be another override, but it depends as it goes through. I mean, looking at the budgets that were presented, it looks like, and it's going to be removing the curbside pickup from, if voted, it's kind of it's either a separate fee for curbside pickup or leaving curbside pickup in and going for an override.
Does that have to go back to the town for another vote?
It would have to have a special town meeting. My understanding, it would need a special town meeting to vote it, and then, and again, it's an order, and we also have to have a ballot vote. So it's not just an either or, it has to be both. And which comes first is all based on timing.
And what would the override be for, just for trash?
I would say mostly for trash and a few other things. And I would estimate at this point, it would probably be in the tune of $900,000 versus the $1.6 million that was asked before. Now, I'm not advocating at this point for an override, so I'm just asking for a sense of your committee. I don't know that you have to vote, but obviously, whether we count on an override or not makes a difference in how the rest of the budget falls out.
What if we vote on an override, it doesn't go through again? What happens then?
Very good question. I think we're then back to starting, well, potentially where we are tonight with redoing the budget.
Right.
So why wouldn't we just do the budget based on no override? And then if the override passes, or if you do go forward with an override and it passes, then you get that money. But if it doesn't pass, you still have to figure out the budget within what you have
We still have 900,000
to try to figure out how to cut it or whatever.
So is that what we need is 900,000, or we need the 1 point? How much do we really need?
I believe it's closer to 900,000. The school North Middlesex has reduced their budget $623,000, give or take. And, that takes a big chunk out of that. We've made some other cuts. The biggest thing in the balance that I think voters will be sensitive to is whether trash is paid for through their taxes or whether it's paid for through a separate fee that's being imposed on all residents. And we're working the details if we have to go that way. So I don't know that I can be more specific how that will work. But basically, we would pass that $825,000 that's in the budget. It would be passed to the residents as a fee collection.
Do we have any idea what that would be per resident by any chance?
I don't, and I don't want to guess at this point. While this is going on, I've asked the treasurer collector to start working up a program on how we will administer that fee collection. So I can't answer your question specifically, but I think that's a fair one to ask and get answers to.
Excuse me. What I don't understand is, I thought that Shaw's gave us a 1-year contract. Why are we still talking and striving for the 3 when the 1 year is considerably late and would give us a year to work out the problem?
Yes, they graciously kept their price the same from last year to this year, but we still have to fund that number. And with the increases across the whole budget, schools and municipal, we're short. And right now, I think
didn't the town vote a sum for trash pickup?
As part of their omnibus budget, yes, Andrew, you're correct. The town voted the $825,000.
Well, then why can't we just take the amount needed for this year, turn the remaining amount that was voted towards the future? Because I know, well, I heard that the selectmen and council don't feel like they have to reallocate the money, that they can just do it, they can just charge. But when it comes to other things in the budget, even smaller things, changing the use of a truck from a plow truck to a pickup truck, any change of appropriation, we've always had to vote it at town meeting or at a town meeting. So I sort of feel like we're putting the cart before the horse.
Well, maybe, but we've got to address the issue either way. The contract with Shaw's will stay the same as it was appropriated and voted at town meeting. the town will pay them to collect the fee, the trash. The problem is we need funds to do that. And
the
one
funds
answer
are-
is to ask for another override. Or the other answer is to say, we're going to tell residents they have to pay a certain fee every month or every quarter for their trash collection.
If they vote
But
at
if
the
it's
last
already figured into
for
our
the
tax
trash, the
bill,
800, so where's that money going?
Where is the money going? It's going,
If the town voted for the trash, why isn't it just going to the trash?
because that money goes into the general fund and is used to pay all of the town's bills, including the assessments to the two schools.
Well, how come when you
No.
vote at town meeting and it comes up on that line and everybody votes, it says, okay, we vote for that money to go to trash.
Right.
And now you're saying that money doesn't go to trash, then why am I voting for anything if it's not being earmarked for what it was voted for?
The money will go to the trash. You are correct. But where does the money come from? And there are requests for more expenditures than there is for revenue.
Okay, but I'm still getting confused because when we were at the last town meeting and we went through all those budget lines and each one was voted on, that was your budget that you presented to the town. And we voted yes and no for those dollars. So you're saying those dollars that we voted on weren't there?
Well, I think what it is that this budget is being amended and they're adding in dollars into the school budget. to the
Yeah,
tune of the
but
1.4.
whatever.
So,
But I'm just saying, if you voted on money to go to trash, that money should go to trash.
Right.
And you shouldn't be taking that money that was voted on by the town people for trash, as you presented at town meeting, to go to something else. Because now, as a taxpayer in a town thing, when I go to town meeting now, and I'm gonna vote on the budget, and I'm thinking that money's going to where I'm voting for, I'm not gonna have any faith in the town going forward, that my money's being spent appropriately.
So
Ross, when that first vote was made, didn't it say, raise and appropriate from, doesn't it say from the general budget? I thought that motion said from general fund.
yes, exactly. And if we're
So how
looking-
can we change it if we vote from general funds to a fee?
but then when we voted it from general funds, we took it out of general funds and put it for a specific purpose. To change that purpose, we have to have another town meeting, I think.
Well, yes, we're having another town meeting. Right now, it's scheduled for August 20th.
Okay.
Okay, so Carol, the dilemma is we're $900,000 short. Where do we take that money from? The school has cut 600,000 plus.
Oh, okay,
second
but
the second
this
half-
is the $900,000, is that just because of the school budget? Because weren't we supposed to, they were like, what, a 1.6 million deficit or whatever it was for the override? So that money was school money. And then the override didn't pass, and then the school went back and did some whatever. So, okay, so you're still $1 million short on the school.
I really feel as though
Okay.
trash is a big deal in this town. And, I really think they need to do the 2.5 override. I really do.
Okay,
I mean,
so
I'm not
so
opposed to it. I'm not opposed to the
No, I know.
override, but all I'm saying is,
Leave the money where it is.
but if you were gonna do the budget, I would still see the budget without the override. Because if it doesn't pass, you're gonna have to redo the budget.
We are gonna have, if it doesn't pass, we are gonna have to redo the budget. And that would be everybody,
Yeah.
not just,
Yeah.
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 okay, so let me back up a little bit. The estimate for the monthly cost on the trash is $42 per household.
Okay.
or something.
Good or bad, but that's what the estimate is. Now,
Okay.
if we don't take the the
You said
trash
it was a month-
fees, because
monthly
that's the
cost?
biggest, the trash fees are the biggest single item. Then the question comes, how do you fund it? And the second half of my opening question is, do we go back to the schools and vote down their last assessment and tell them to come back a third time? And that's assuming that Ashby also votes no, or do we take the last assessment they gave us and try to work around that? These are policy decisions for the Finance Committee and the Selectmen, which I'm glad to opine on, but answering the override question and accepting or rejecting the school committee number will shape how the rest of the budget conversation goes.
Actually, when you think about it, it comes down to like $10 or $11 a week. I was paying more for that a long time ago in another town. So to me, that's not that bad.
No, that's, that's not bad.
Yeah, not bad.
But,
Let's ask
but that's for this year.
that's for this year, and I think we need to go back to the schools as well as ourselves, and people have heard me say this a lot, not just look at the 1 year. We need to be looking out 5 years.
5 years, I agree.
5-year
Yeah.
plan.
Yep.
We need to know from the school what the ask is gonna be next year. If they come in at the number they have this year, what's it gonna be next year? They had negotiations with 5 bargaining units this year. We need to know what that number is gonna be. We know that the town is only gonna get 2.5 and a little bit of growth.
Mhm.
So the schools have to be held to the same standards that we do. So if the town votes the current school budget, can they come in at 2.5 next year and meet our revenue targets that we have?
Well,
Because we don't have any way of increasing revenues.
but you know what, we need to talk about the other departments too, it's just not the school. Because there was a lot of over money this year.
It is. If we go down the list of the hit list of things that are coming,
2.5, that's it.
the ARPA funded positions have to come whole in this 5 year. It's within 2.5 years. They have to come whole. We have to eat. We have to
If we
be
can
able to
afford
fund
it.
all of those money.
Why
Right.
are those opera funds positions not just eliminated?
Some of them are, I would say, relatively important. The one that I always use, having been a manager, when you have HR issues, sometimes they can take as much as 30% of your week. Do you want a town administrator taking 30% of his time out to work on HR issues?
Mhm.
It's kind of like, so now it's a trade-off.
Okay.
30% of a salary for a town administrator is now doing HR work.
Do you have
It is
an HR
something-
person in town?
We do, yeah, and it is funded, partially funded with ARPA funds. Today, we have been increasing those amounts, but we have to be able to see those increases over the next couple of years and make sure that we can still.
But I agree with
Fund.
you, you should be doing a 5-year budget.
They have,
So-
everybody's
So,
got to do the
so,
5-year
so
budget.
I think if we have a starting budget for FY '25, incrementally increasing it percentage-wise and things over the years is an easier thing to do you can do it in spreadsheets with formulas and just calculations, and hit it so we can have a bigger target. The town would have something to look at that says, this is where we are today. If we vote on this as an override today, we won't have to do it, but we need to partner with the schools in addition to help us look at what their ask is gonna be over those same.
No, do we ask
5 years.
each department to look at like a
We
5-year
should.
plan?
We haven't
actually
yet, but
should.
I think we need to.
We need to, because
I-
the other thing is you need to look at what's the maintenance gonna be on buildings over the next 5 years?
Exactly, but-
What's the, police, fire, ambulances, whatever, water trucks, all that
Mhm.
stuff, when do you gotta replace them? What
Right,
kind of life,
capital, yeah,
the capital
Capital
expenditures, and you need to look at that, like you said, at least 5 years out. And then if we have, contracts, maybe we have, if we can look at the longer contracts with a better payout,
Well,
or
the contracts piece unfortunately is limited by, guidelines from the state.
Yeah.
That, limited to 3 years. That's why the 5-year trash contract that was presented was voted
the
down.
state limits you with the 3-year contracts?
They do, yeah.
I didn't know the state did that.
But still, they should be able to project.
Yeah, they should still.
Right, we have to.
Well, that's a bad thing. I worked in contracting for the federal government. I know how contracts work, but
Mhm.
3-year limit. Sometimes you can do a lot better if you can do a 5-year
longer term,
a longer term.
Mhm.
That's bad.
Agreed.
You
But-
only
but that-
allow 3 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Didn't we just have a problem with that? Somebody wanted a 5-year contract and was unable to get it because the
I think
state
it was
only
the
allowed
trash.
3 years?
It was the trash.
Trash.
Yeah,
Okay.
So
Okay,
we will certainly, I think, with your new town administrator, you will work on, and the finance committee work on a 5-year budget. But I'm very confident the school's increase next year for FY 26 will be more than 2.5%.
Oh, yes, I agree.
I'm sure.
Sure it will be.
I can assure you that the town has been up against an override issue for multiple years. When I was here 2.5 years ago, we recommended an override, and that didn't pass. So
Right.
the override question is going to come up every year because I think we're hitting the limit. I'm trying to figure out how to balance the FY 25 budget.
Understood, but I think the FY 25 budget is part of that bigger. You can't just say, take FY 25 and hope it works going forward. I think we need to have a bit of a bigger story of this is what we're asking in FY 25 and how it will impact you in FY 26, 7, 8. We just can't.
yes, for
It's
way
just-
too many years, we have been just holding our breath and balancing the budget for the 1 year,
Right.
not thinking at all about what's gonna happen next year. And that's why we find ourselves where we are today.
So,
Ross, I have one question to ask you because I'd forgotten, and I don't mean to go back to trash. Well, I guess I do mean to go back to it. Did we fund it? Was the amount on the omnibus budget for 3 years or 1 year?
The amount on the budget was for 1 year, and the town
Okay.
signed a 1-year contract.
Okay, fine, thank you.
Oh,
And
and-
that's what I had thought, but I get confused when the conversation gets rolling sometimes.
and I guess I'm going to ask the piece of that question, or a piece of that, is that strictly the curbside pickup piece, or is that the whole contract? Because the whole contract includes dumpsters and things spread around the town at various facilities.
Oh,
Oh, it
okay.
does.
I believe it's, wait a minute, let me check.
I don't know.
Okay, I understand what you're saying.
I'm sure it probably
I
must.
hope it does. I hope they sign a 1-year contract that includes everything.
Well, it does, but when you talk about billing,
Oh,
Resident.
I see. Is it gonna also include like a condo association? Is it gonna
It's
Is it
include
just like
a,
they have
the
two
town
dumpsters and,
town hall and the
Yeah,
police station.
yeah.
And,
in wherever else you see a dumpster? or-
Right.
Yeah, I
well,
understand.
mostly the town properties.
It
It's
does
kinda like
not,
this-
it does not include condos. They are on their own.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. No, I was thinking about the dumpsters that are at town facilities like town hall, police station, library,
fire.
Fire
probably
station.
fire, yeah.
Okay, the
It's
town
listed-
property.
It's listed as curbside pickup and transportation. So I think that the building individual building trash is within their own budgets.
Well, that could be true.
Okay, because when I looked at
Doesn't it-
I have not seen the
part of
1
the
year,
contract?
but when I looked at the 5-year contracts that were presented, there was the curbside pickup was one fee, and then all of they listed all of the different dumpsters with all of the different pickup schedules that are at the town facilities.
Okay.
So they're not listed in their individual budgets.
I
But
don't believe.
when we've examined the budget, it never has come up as one of the items that is in any of the line items on the individual budget.
Okay, so I will verify that answer for you for your next meeting.
Yeah, okay, which is next Tuesday, so, just so you have the timeline. But that's the piece, it's kind of like, when we talk about a price that's gonna be invoiced, I'm
Okay.
not looking for it to be padded. You know, I understand there's other trash that has to be picked up. I don't believe it's in individual budgets to pay their own trash.
Okay,
We would
well,
have invoices from Shaw's from each of the other departments.
it's the same contract that we had for FY24. So I'll find out how the town buildings and et cetera get paid for.
Okay, good.
So I started this with some philosophical questions and we sort of
Yep.
didn't answer them, but can I go through the rest of the budget changes?
Yeah, is it the change, is it in the Word document you sent, or that's just the summaries?
Well, I'm going to start with the draft warrant articles because that sort of highlights where I propose to make changes.
Okay.
Okay,
And you can go into the nitty gritty of the omnibus budget because the changes are in red in the omnibus budget.
okay. So I did bring it up just in case people don't have it here. You want to pull it up a little bit more?
Okay.
So this
This
date
will never
is,
gets fuzzy.
okay.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, yeah, nice.
Nice.
So I may have to scroll a little bit, but we have it shared. Okay.
Okay, so
yeah.
part of balancing the budget is looking at revenue as well as looking at expenses. The fire department has been doing an excellent job with their advanced life support. They are supporting many runs, and that's generating significant income. I'm proposing to take $800,000 or $100,000 increase over the May budget out of ambulance receipts, and the fire department is aware of that and okay with that number. So that's a little more revenue.
Okay,
Well, those funds are to be used for the fire department, the increased funds to lower their other figure, because you can't use ambulance receipts for anything but ambulance related things. Because our fire department is fire EMS, there are more things we can use it for, but you couldn't use, for example, the $800,000 or extra $100,000. You couldn't use that for the school from ambulance receipts. It's against the law.
I will look into that. I believe it can go into the general fund and the general fund uses it where it uses it. But if we use it to offset the money going to the fire department, then it's sort of a wash.
I think the law says that it has to be used for EMS related things.
So push from one hand to the other.
right.
Well, okay. So if that's the case, then we'll reduce their ask for other items by that number. But my point is that's $800,000 more. I mean, that's $800,000 of revenue or $100,000 more than the budget. In the police budget, there's a request for newer.
Sorry, Russ, I had another item on the ambulance receipts. Not having seen the account, do they have the approximate? There was a special town meeting budget that also took 100,000 out, so that it sounds like it's now 900,000. Do we have that kind of money in that account that we can take?
Yes, this is net of receipts so far this year. It's net of the 100,000 that was taken out in the spring town meeting, and it's net of 100,000 that was put back because we had incorrectly taken out a lease payment that had already been paid for. So
Okay,
that is a good number.
okay,
On the expense side, line 284 of the police budget is requesting $95,000 for new equipment. That's the first year lease payment on 4 new cruisers. We've talked to the chief, and he's willing to delay that acquisition until a potential December special town meeting. So we're taking it out of this budget and propose to fund that out of free cash once free cash has been certified late this fall. So that's a reduction in this budget. Another warrant article will be to establish a special revenue fund to account for collecting the trash fees. And I've put in an expense item of $50,000 to run that process. I don't know what that process is. I told you I've asked the treasurer collector to look into how to collect fees and to let me know if there's a software application or a staffing issue related to it. But as a placeholder, I've put in a $50,000 expense, and that'll be a warrant article. The work that Chaz has done working with Guardian, our IT company, they're putting in a new fiber WAN connection between buildings. And I estimate that that will reduce the MIS budget by about $10,000 because it'll have a system that is much more robust and lowering the monthly charges for a number of pieces of equipment. We're going to have an article that amends the North Middlesex school budget to reflect their latest assessment. That assessment is $14,362,047. And as I said, that's roughly $621,000 less than what they had asked for in April. Now,
How much less? How much less?
I think it's 6, what is it, the 6 something?
I'm sorry, what?
let me see if I can bring up I think there's questions around what the budget numbers are, so let me,
Has lowered their assessment $629,652.
That was from what they asked for in April. That's not the number that was voted. The number that was voted in May was their last year's budget.
Okay.
So as when you trickle this down through the budget, this latest decrease actually shows an increase in the omnibus budget because we were using FY24 numbers in the budget.
so I've just brought up the budget and highlighting those 2 lines for North Middlesex. So, so if we look at what was in the budget, if you look under the column F, the FY24, that's what we had in the budget in May. Is we had these same 2 numbers brought forward into 2025. Now, these would be the numbers moving forward into the FY25 budget. Again, so you see the exempt debt is dropping by 6% and the 5.6% increase in the operating budget. So it's a $691,000 increase year over year for FY24 to 25.
Okay. I mean, that's a big number, but that's what drives it. The next, we're going to do a little bit of a budget cutting in the selectmen's budget. There's a line item for automobile allowance. We're going to cut that by down to 2,000, so that's a saving of 2,800. The selectmen have negotiated a contract with the new town administrator, and that'll reduce line 1 for the TA salary by $10,000. I'm also going to have a warrant article to recapture old town meeting articles. Those are appropriations for various projects or equipment that are complete and still have a balance remaining. So one will help clean up the accounting system by getting rid of those old projects. And two, I think we can return about $19,000 to either free cash or back into stabilization. So that'll be a slight offset to the expenses. There's a warrant article to do a drainage easement at 94 Fitchburg. That should have zero cost to it. There'll be a warrant article to pay $13,200 to the highway department for a CAT loader, as in Caterpillar loader. That's part of a lease agreement. We think there will be maybe $10,000 of prior year bills coming forward. And at the end of the night, I think that I'm going to recommend transferring some amount of money. I think it looks like $95,000 from stabilization to balance the budget.
Ugh.
And this is when I do the mic drop because I expected that response.
Well, the only reason you get it from me is it's terrible to fund ongoing expenses with one-time money. I realize we don't have a lot of choices, but we're stepping closer to bankruptcy every single step we take. When we do that kind of thing.
Well, Andrea, yes, I agree with you. You shouldn't spend savings accounts, one-time funds on operating budgets, but stabilization is legitimately used to balance the budget. It has been in other towns for years. We have $1.3 million in stabilization today. And I think taking potentially 95 out of it is not the end of the world. I don't
think it's the end of the world either, and I think other towns do it because they get in somewhat the same bind we are in. But because others do it, doesn't make it the right thing to do.
Understood. So I'm throwing out ideas because I want to work with the finance committee between now and town meeting to come up with a workable solution. And I've given you an outline of where I am today. But I can give my recommendations, but I work at the direction of the selectmen, and I, believe it or not, I listen to the finance committee.
Yep. So along those lines, I know during FY24, we sold 3 properties. So that money came into the general fund, will be certified coming when we get the free cash certification.
Yes.
If this was a loan and we paid it back on the same warrant article or passed it, if it's another warrant article that's necessary, that says we are going to move 95,000 into stabilization from free cash, similar to what you're doing with the police. I mean, that's moving 95,000 out from, say, July into December when we get free cash. So from that money from those 3 properties, maybe it is restart the, so we're borrowing it for a little bit, but we need to rebuild it. We took $200,000 out a while ago, and we paid retroactive raises to the employees in town hall with the intention to pay it back. We haven't. If we don't have the intention of paying this back and showing it come back in, we're going to go down that path of continuing to use it because, and again, looking at the 5-year, if we need 95,000 from stabilization this year, and we don't make any changes in the basic budget, we're going to be looking for 95,000 again next year. If everything stays at 2.5%. Yep, and more than likely more. So we really have to look at this as the canary in the coal mine that says we're in trouble. And that only takes, if it's 100,000, you know, you're talking 10, 11 years before you've totally drained it at this rate. And it could be higher. And during
Don,
the audit, yeah,
Don and Andrea, I agree with you 100%, but my dilemma is, how do we continue to fund vital services without doing this? And the second part of it is, what do you use stabilization for? If you never use, I mean, taxpayers have already paid for that money. What do you use it for? Or when do you use it? And I think this
I
is
would
the
say
list
when there's an extraordinary event, not an ongoing year-to-year budget.
Okay.
Yeah. That's just personally how I look at it. It's kind of like, you know, if I was drawing down my savings, I'd be scared that I wouldn't be able to continue, and how quickly it would happen. And we have to have that same concern for the town. So again, if we take it and can put together how we're going to fund FY26 with these numbers and some of the increases, it's that gives you a better vision than a one-year vision, looking at it and saying, we're going to continue this way and we're going to be in trouble. Because that's how I look at this. It's kind of like, but again, this is an initial look at it. And I think we have that deeper dive. We need to really see what the budget's going to look like. And can we sustain, what can we sustain? Because if we do and request a $900,000 override to fund this budget, and we're still borrowing $100,000, why aren't we going for the $1 million?
Well,
And say that you know, it's kind of like that it will go. Our stabilization, the budget is getting bigger. Our stabilization is going to start getting lower. We're tier 2 I would like it in how much the percentage of where the stabilization fund is in total, as a total percentage of your total budget. We're going to continue shrinking that. I would rather go the other way and move to tier 1 and have more stabilization available in the event. If we had something catastrophic, like we need a roof and replace at town hall, how are we going to fund all of some of the building changes and updates that are going to be? If those are one-time funds, that's probably more palatable use of stabilization fund for me.
okay, well, this is why I started this conversation.
Yep.
In the big picture, when you're faced with high inflation at the beginning of this year and last year, and still moderate inflation now, you know, 3+% inflation is hard to account for with a 2.5% tax, restriction. And
yeah, exactly. And we haven't, and I know I just started thinking about things the other day. What are the things? It's kind of like, I know we have conservation land and things like that. Is there some way to work with conservation and do cutting and get sell timber? It's kind of like, I understand it's conservation land, but sometimes it needs to be maintained and is thinning it something. It's kind of like, just a thought. I haven't mentioned it to anybody else.
But that's a thought.
It's a thought, yeah, it actually maintains the land too.
And clean it.
And clean it.
Yeah.
It's kind of, so anyway.
That's a good idea. However, there would also be a cost involved in getting somebody to do that.
But it might be a bidding. You bid to clear this much from an area and
Put out
a bid for it.
put it out.
Just a thought. I haven't talked to conservation. It's something that if we're going to pursue it would have to happen. And I understand that. I don't say those things lightly. Just looking at ways. Is there a little bit of way? Is there some other way to get some revenue that we hadn't thought of?
That's
Well, so that's the budget summary.
Yeah,
I will sort of close by saying I've looked at the line items. I helped create the line items 2.5 years ago.
yeah,
I believe the town services are vital and necessary and important to keep. But at some point, if the finance committee and the selectmen and eventually the voters say we're not going to use trash fees to balance the budget, we're not going to use any of the stabilization to balance the budget, we're talking cutting services, which we've tried to avoid. Delaying the purchase of four police cruisers is not going to impact the police department significantly.
mhm, yeah.
But cutting services, I think is wrong. But it's at the end of the day, if we don't have other revenue, that's what will have to happen. And maybe each of you can go through the omnibus budget that I've sent tonight and send me suggestions on things that you think should be cut. If you're not willing to go with the sort of the draft plan I put out tonight.
Well, I know I just did get it out to everybody after the appointment I had today. So, you've done a good job introducing the changes. And we can see here on the town administrator line, the highlight in red, the 125, so that change with the notes in column K, for what the changes are, and the impact. So we can they're easy to spot and easy to find, and we can even use filters to do that.
Well, I encourage any of you to contact me individually with suggestions.
Mhm.
I'm throwing things out sort of as a starting point. We need to work it out, by early August.
Yep. Yeah, and again, I know that the trash situations are only just starting, but it's kind of like how the implementation plan would go. How does somebody opt out and get their own? How do people combine? It's kind of like there are people that don't use much, so one bucket could be shared between 3 houses that I know of on a regular basis. It's kind of like, so the other question would be recycling. Is a recycling for the whole town, or is it just for people that are paying the trash fee?
What do you mean by that? Like I have a recycle bucket in the trash bucket.
And so if you pay for it, it's there, but if you don't pay for trash, can you still put out a recycling bucket?
Oh, I see. So if we go to a fee trash thing and I choose not to, maybe my neighborhood goes to a private contractor, say.
Yeah.
Can I still put out my?
Yeah, again,
Okay.
there's details.
Well, there's some way to work around that because the state requires that we recycle. We don't recycle because we're so goody-goody. We recycle because they force us to.
It's a mandate. So just a question. I throw them out there because I think they're questions people are going to have as we move forward with some of these potential options. It's kind of like if I go back to taxes and things like that, I would rather see the trash in my tax line and paying it as a tax. If I'm paying it as a fee, if you're able to use your real estate taxes as a deduction, you would be able to deduct that piece also, not just.
So, yeah.
So it's kind of like there's pros and cons.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go on.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, that was all I was going to point out with that. It's kind of like you know, it's not for everybody, but if you're gonna pay it, why not have it in your tax bill? But it's kind of like, you know,
Well,
If we do taxes or do trash by payment, individual payment, we're still going to have to budget something because if you look at the tax rate, some people don't pay their bills, and if you there, but if you're contracted with somebody to do a chore, you've got to pay them all the money they need. So that even charging a fee for trash pickup is going to be a really tricky business.
it is, and, you know, and if you don't pay it, how does the truck know not to pick somebody up because they didn't pay their fee? It's kind of like, there is gonna be a lot of downstream questions and issues that arise with.
yeah,
Regarding that, I think we should be, I mean, I know that Ross is working hard and I know that the selectmen are thinking about this a great deal. But trash pickup comes under the Board of Health legally. They should be including them in more to help resolve that problem.
Good point, and thank you. We will.
Oh, thank you.
yeah, it's tricky.
Okay, so, any other questions for Ross at this point? I know we've hit a lot. The files have just come out, so, you haven't necessarily had a chance to look at them yet.
Are we gonna get hard copies of those?
We will get hard copies of them, yes.
And I apologize for sending them late. I had some other appointments today, but I will get them to you earlier for your next meeting.
I appreciate it. It's kind of like it was a combination. I was also away at the eye doctor being dilated, so I couldn't read anything for those couple of hours. So, well, and that happens. We have other things to do. So, with that, Russ, thank you. The information is good. If we have any additional questions, we can get them documented to you.
Great. Yes. Please keep me posted and send me Carol's email. I'll talk to you all next week, if not before.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And next week is back to 6 o'clock for this group.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to sign off now unless there's something else I can do for you.
I heard no questions, so we're good.
All right.
Good. Thanks, Russ. Have
Thank
a good
you.
evening.
Bye.
Thank you.
So I just had a question, like when you talk about the stabilization, but is there a place where I could find where it's what all these little accounts mean? Like what's the stabilization account? I don't really know what it is.
In the town.
Some of it will be a little bit of matriculation. You're gonna get a little information. One of the items on the agenda, I had planned to purchase, and I'll jump to that out of order. No, it's that was the omnibus budget, and so now old business. Item 1, the MMA financial training reference documents. We had voted in one of our June meetings that I would go out and purchase 2 copies. And this is where you're it's a primer. MMA is a resource, Massachusetts Mutual Association, Municipalities Association. They have a lot of good information. DLS.gov for the mass.gov has good information, but the plan was to purchase 2 of these reference sets so that you could take them and read them and get that kind of stuff. So there is, and I wanted to mention that I didn't pick them up because it said member price was $25, and I was only able to access the non-member fee, so I didn't want to do that. And in the meantime, I also have contacted the treasurer to see if we have to use a form and approve a particular form that signs off all of the board, all of the finance committee members approved me going out and purchasing it and spending from our dues and subscriptions account. So I'm following up on that, and we will have documentation.
In the old days, or not that many old days, a couple of years ago even, they sent out discs, but before they sent out handbook. And it came from the MMA, and all those definitions were there, because that's where I learned.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we will, yeah, it's kind of like all of this has been a learning experience over multiple years for me. I came in, I had no introduction to it. And my introduction had been business accounting in some of it, and budgets, and it's kind of like, and the spending money on capital and depreciating it is kind of like, is totally different here, and you just have to, it's a mindset.
Yeah, because I know working for the federal government, you know, whatever your appropriation line is, that's
Yep.
all you can
That's
spend.
right.
That's
it.
Yep.
That's all you can spend that money on, unless you go through this process of
Right.
removing it and
Right.
putting
And-
it here.
And
They're very strict on where you spend money or how you spend your money that you're budgeted.
yeah, so one you'll hear about for us, we have $50,000 in a reserve fund that the finance committee will manage, and it is meant for unexpected expenses that came up during the year, or unexpected from a department budget. So they do their department budgets at the beginning of the year. If there's something unanticipated that had come up, we have the ability to transfer some money to an account to pay that particular expense. One of the things that is next on the list, so we talked about the reference documents, is I'm sort of jump down to item 4 in the new business, define the processes and terminology for what we're using, and also codify the uses for reserve fund, because we maybe haven't done a good job getting out to the department heads what that money is used for, and what to approach us for with it. You know, items that should be presented to us, or items that need maybe a special warrant article versus when they've overspent the appropriation. So you're very familiar with that terminology. They just can't overspend an appropriation and come to us and say, I didn't budget enough.
God, no. We'd be fired if we did that.
Right, yeah, so it's kind of like those are the pieces that we have to look at and define. So there's a little work here within the finance committee to make sure we can communicate that out.
Now, when the departments submit a budget, like, is maintenance, you know, is that ever included in the budget? Like, you know, we know the heating system
Yeah,
is
that
20
comes
years
under-
old and we're gonna have to replace it or do maintenance or something.
Yeah, we have.
We need to, yeah, I mean, there's some, but when it's usually lumped into a repair and maintenance line. So you
Okay.
don't know what's maintenance and what's repair. So we have to,
Oh.
as we get to it, either we have to have the discussion that we want to see maintenance on one line and repair on another, so you can specifically see it, or we're going to be looking for additional information behind that line, and how do we get to that idea?
Yeah, because there's a difference between the repair and the maintenance,
It
yeah.
is, you know, last year we had 2 septic pumps out here go. It's kind of like, which means your septic system isn't working.
Yeah.
It's kind of like,
Yeah.
now, that would have been a repair had we known about it, but it would, you know, we looked at it as an expense for the reserve fund because there wasn't money in the repair budget. So
But
it's kind of like, but again, if we look at it, that's probably not what the reserve fund was meant for.
Because I just noticed that a lot of public buildings, not
Mhm.
necessarily here, but public, I mean, even at Hanscom Air Force Base, I mean, they just don't budget for maintenance
Right, right, yeah.
until it's broken,
Until
and then
it's
it
broken.
costs thousands more than
Which-
if they
fixed it.
if they had just put some maintenance in it.
Mhm.
I mean, they won some engineering award years ago in the 80s to put I think one of the solar panels on the roof. And they won some major award, this engineering feat. They put solar panels on the roof of one of the buildings I worked in. And then I think they worked for like a year, and then they all rusted and corroded.
Oh.
And they're still there, and they're rusted and corroded.
Yeah.
So, in the federal government's the worst as far as maintenance of anything goes.
In some departments, we put maintenance off so long, or deliberately maybe even, so that we just get replacement.
Yeah.
And it seems that they're guided towards that. That's a bad thing. That's the thing we have to get over.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I could see some of that. Just in general government thinking, yeah.
So, and then.
Well, see, I think maybe that's part of the problem, is that there's not a free enough exchange of information or viewing that somebody can really see overall. You just take what the department tells you. If the department tells you it doesn't need any maintenance or doesn't bother to maintenance with maintenance, then nothing is done. In order to make this work, and we like to have the maintenance department, we have got to open the lines of communication and information exchange much better than it is now.
Well, departments tend not to want to put money into maintenance because they could put it into other things.
There is a project going on right now that the Board of Selectmen are running to evaluate all of the town facilities. And that, with that contract, when they're done, they will present a list of all of the recommendations for repairs and maintenance to be done on all the facilities. It's a very good thing. It can help us look and plan and prioritize. If they say something looks like it's going to break within 2 years versus something's going to break in 5 or 10, you can prioritize where the money goes.
Is that just buildings, though?
Well, my understanding was that it was for all of the facilities. I don't know that they were looking at like roads and things. That I would leave to Jim and the highway. So, okay, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna just jump back on, because I skipped over the review of the bylaws. One of the things that we said we wanted to do this summer was take a look at the bylaws, as there's a bylaw review committee, and mark them up and see if we can pass recommendations for bylaw changes to the bylaw committee and get them in. So I did send them out today. It was a PDF file that's taken from the bylaws on the town website where we can.
Is it just this one here?
Yeah, that's
it?
Yeah.
It's 2 pages, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep, just those 2 pages, those are bylaws. But if there's things we want to get in there to identify and make changes for, I won't do it today. I think we do have other time, but I just thought you can take it, mark up things that you think would strengthen what we do, or changes. If there's something we should do, delete it.
Do we ever, like, when they submit a budget, the departments, do they is there any kind of statement that says?
There's supposed to be a statement, yes.
That says, if I need this because, or
They come in.
and if I don't get it, the world's going to come to an end.
Yeah.
There are those. I don't see a lot of them, but I will tell you the police chief does his regularly, and that's a good example that we should be looking for everybody for. It does say when you look at the budget process, it says I'm going to submit the budget with my budget letter, and we haven't seen the budget letters.
I always presented one.
Well, one thing that has happened in years past, the different departments submitted their budget at the same time to the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen.
Right,
Now,
as-
except for the town clerk, they give it to the selectmen. And when you go through many hands, it's very likely that parts are left out, probably like the letters.
Okay, so maybe that's something we want to put in a bylaw or something.
Or look at the procedure. There is a budget procedure and process that we should
Oh,
follow.
yeah, I did have that too.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep, you've been perusing the
Well,
website, and there's a lot of good information that.
it was, and I was wondering if we actually follow it.
So far, no, but we would like to get back to it, or make changes to it if we're not following it, and modify it. One of the things that they did try to do last year was, I think it was last year, change the dates on the warrant articles for the special town meeting at the annual. Because when the warrant articles had to be finished by the beginning of May, in a lot of cases, you didn't know what exactly you might need to add. So it's kind of like, because it's in order to hit the March timeframe, you're talking 6 months before the meeting. So they wanted to try to delay it a little bit to like April 1st, so that it's a lot closer to town meeting, and you have a better understanding of where the budget is and what else you might need in the special. So it's kind of like, so those changes might be coming forward.
Yeah, because I think, what we want is everybody to submit the budget with the same information.
Right, with the same information, it's kind of.
Whatever the little statement is, I gotta have it.
Right,
And some of the things, it's kind of like we look at, and we've talked about them in the past, when a line says other, what do you mean by other? It's kind of like, let's give that,
Yeah, what does other mean?
like miscellaneous.
and at what.
What does that mean? Yeah.
Yeah, with those kinds of things, it's kind of like a little bit.
Hard
more-
to say what miscellaneous is to everybody.
Well, miscellaneous to me means whatever I want it to be.
Right, yeah,
Well, it's
exactly.
different in every department too, because a lot of times they'll have a category that just doesn't easily fit in anywhere. So they throw out miscellaneous.
Well, and that's okay, as long as there's an
An
explanation. for
explanation of what miscellaneous
what
is.
it
Exactly.
means. Yeah, I mean,
Yep.
yes, I agree, there's always a point where
Mhm.
something doesn't fit into whatever
Right.
categories you have, and you have to have like a little other or miscellaneous, and just as an explanation, okay?
Yep, those are the sort of things we're going for.
All right, so next time we're gonna take a few at a time, is that what you wanna do, or like 1, 2, 4, or 1, 2, 3, or something like that, or?
On the budget, going through the omnibus, or do you mean?
No, the,
Let's see, there's only 6 lines.
6, yeah,
Um,
but there's a lot of information in the
What's
form.
that one? Is that,
I think you've got that.
oh, is that what it is? Okay. Oh, that's what I have,
Yeah.
okay, all right,
Yeah.
it's the same thing, okay.
Yeah, so, if you want, we can split it between two. We can, do 1, 2, and 3, and then.
Maybe that would be
4,
best
5, 6.
rather than,
Yep, no, rather than do it all at once and
Yeah.
try to capture. all that. So we'll break that into the agendas. So far, I have not heard from Board of Selectmen whether they want to have a joint meeting with us. Either August. Let's see, one of the August 6th and 20. It's kind of like, so.
I will not be here on the 6th. It's my birthday and I will not
No,
be here.
okay, that-
Oh, happy birthday. Happy
So
birthday.
that would
The big
have been, yeah, we don't have a meeting scheduled. I had, as we were looking at this, we booked what are the potentials, and so 6 and 20 were selectmen meetings.
Mhm.
And so we said if they wanted a joint, then we would join them for a joint. It's kind of like, and I don't mean cannabis. And so we haven't heard anything on there, so at this point, our next meeting is July 30th at 6 PM, and then I have scheduled August 13th at 6 PM.
Oh, okay.
If it gets busy and hectic, we may go to Thursdays.
Okay.
Okay, so that's everything on the agenda that I had. Any last thoughts, questions? We need to add to an agenda for next week.
Yeah, I put those hard copies for the,
Wait, yeah, I'll
yeah,
work with,
okay.
yeah, it's kind of like, it's kind of tough to see it at 4 o'clock and then.
I know it, yeah,
try to
that's
get
fine,
that copy,
yeah,
For that,
no
so
problem.
we'll be working.
But I do like to, I like.
Yeah, you like.
Paper?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
do.
me too.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah,
paper.
especially on budgets that are.
Yeah,
that
it's
big.
easier to,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
get them on,
I'm an old person. I like paper.
yeah,
I'm not a digital person. I don't like the digital age so much.
yeah, no, it's kind of like, but I can, I can go either way, but it's a lot easier for me. I can, when I'm doing it on my own rather than.
right, rather than Joe,
Sharing.
yeah,
It's kind of like, but for following along and making notes, it's kind of like paper is good for everybody, so
Yeah.
we'll do that. Okay, and Andrew, you've been quiet. Any last thoughts on?
What?
No, I'm just asking if there's any last thoughts, for today or something for next week.
No.
Okay, then at this point, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
make a motion to adjourn,
I'll second it.
Okay, and roll call vote on the agenda.
Gerald Bezak, yes?
Carol Hoff says yes.
Andrea Wood, yes?
Hayes, yes, and that was for the adjournment, so we stand adjourned